Hello everyone. Let's take a look at the markets today. We have some interesting price development recently in the last few days. So let's take a look to see where we are at now and what might come next. Today I'm gonna start with the 200 daily in this case. As you know, this trend line is a must for a new leg. We can go back to the bear market bottom, right? This was the top 2021 dead cat bounce, perfectly rejected, and it's been below ever since. Then we established a new bottom, reclaimed, retest, hold, hovered below it. That's why we use more confluence like these levels, right? These top support and again tested that support. That's why, as I've said many times, we don't only use one type of indicator, right? So this is possible as long as the structure holds, which by the way, this is the 50 weekly EMA. So we need to be above to push decisively, right? Every time we've had some chop, we have eventually retested it. Same with the 8-month distribution period, right? We even dipped below. Again, the 50 held, and we printed here in the daily the bullish divergence. If you've been following my videos, you already know that. Pretty much the same here, right? So the good thing right now is, since this downtrend started, we had this scam pump here, which by the way, when this happens so early or in the first touch, it's normally not a good sign, right? Like this pump here, or even this pump here, right? The first touch, at least so far this cycle, which is what we are paying attention to, is normally not a good sign as we are back. This is a trap, bull trap, bear trap, right? This is the type of consolidation period that chops everyone, especially those impatient, right? The difference here is we didn't hold this, of course. It became resistance, right? Another pump that didn't hold, and two more rejections, another try, chop, right? Difference is here we printed the daily divergence. I'm not gonna show the RSI in this chart, but we've been discussing this for quite some time. So this was the confirmation, right? That perhaps the trend was this is the reversal point, and here I said for a few days that still the lower bound was rejecting, but this is a trend, another change in the trend, right? BTC managed to close above the lower bound, right? After some resistance. So this is significant after many days trying to fight it. This is something that didn't happen here. It was like big pushes and downs, but not this kind of accumulation or strength perhaps below the lower band. So we reclaimed it. I said yesterday that if this candle was going to be a rejection likely at first, we could come back to retest this because stock RSI was also overheated. But I'm going to show you now that it doesn't mean that every time it's overheated it has to retrace in price. That's why the daily, I only use it to spot trend reversals either at the top or the bottom, right? I said many times that the daily to me could be quite noisy, so I don't see clear signs. That's why I normally use the higher time frame, especially the weekly, right? So now today we've been pushing again so far, still above, trying to break above the upper bound. I don't know where we will end the day. I don't really care because what I want to see is a higher high, which in terms of the candle, the body, this is already a higher high. In terms of wick, we're exactly fighting, right? But this is almost 89K, right? We need 88. That's the key, right? 88 is the the level we should turn into support, right? pretty much around here, right? This resistance, rejection. This is the more or less the level that we should turn into support. That would be huge, but in any case, I don't really care if we retest this line, keep going up. We need to make a higher high, high low, right? This could be it, right? This could be the high low if we make a higher high, right? If we hadn't, this would still be a clear downtrend, right? That's why I've said many times that many people were drawing this trend line a bit weird, but this is the breakout. But more importantly, we need the horizontal, right? And if we take a look at October, I said many times, and repeated many times actually. I said that we should study October and September, right? October 2023, for example, right? Which is the example I said. We started fighting this trend line again. We got rejected here, pretty much held, right? But even though there was a deviation here, there was a high low, high low. We could make something like that here if we go above and then retest the lower band, for example, and go just break to the upside, right? That is another conference for the change in the trend. And if we go to the 4-hour, this is something I was paying attention to because I didn't want to see this, right? This was before the big drop that ended in this double bottom, the 4-hour, on the, for now, local bottom. I didn't want to see this kind of weakening action because even though it seemed that it was holding, you can see that it retested twice the lower band. It started to print some wicks here showing perhaps weakness, but it was tough here. This was the moment of the Bollinger Bands here, right? That I mentioned that on the daily and the weekly they were not very tight, but they were on the daily, right? You can see how tight they were, right? Pretty much like in previous big moves. This one was even tighter here. This one, right? We had like this one here. So it was suggesting a big move. Actually, I was just lucky to see this in the pretty much the same day it happened, right? And then here I mentioned that on the daily there wasn't any kind of, this was the daily move. As you can see, the Bollinger Bands were not tight, but they were on the 4-hour. You can see that I posted here, right? That they are, sorry, this is the first post. This is the second one for the 4-hour. So it was tight here, and it was hovering above the the top of these bands, and there was a sizable move, perhaps 88, and that's what happens so far, right? So Bollinger Bands can be helpful for moments when you have so much tightness and price going sideways that you can perhaps get an idea of what might come next. So the thing is, the 4-hour tested again the band, the upper band, and bounced, which is something that here became resistance. There is a clear trend change here. So the 4-hour is above, and the daily is fighting to go above the upper band. Again, I wouldn't be worried if it just rejects and stays in between, right? Breaks, high, low, breaks, high, high, hold it, push. I don't really mind staying there for a bit, right? The thing is, if we go to our main chart, here it is, right? We've been using this structure, again, the divergence, double bottoms, diagonal breakout. I use this fractal, and for now, even though fractals are not. I think they are just some kind of guidance or even just for fun. But since these structures were similar, I thought it was a good idea to just use this fractal and see how it could go. And so far, so good, right? I mentioned this potential various divergence forming on the daily, but for quite some time you will have that potential divergence in a structure, even though it doesn't materialize, because when the structure changes, as I mentioned here, this was the downtrend, right? That started to shift with this divergence and started to shift to the upside for the new leg. And again, the various divergence forming here, structure losing momentum and reversing here again, which is why I said this, in my opinion, was the lows, right? So these potential various divergence, right? We could say that this was the various divergence that ended up here confirming the bullish divergence, but now that price has climbed up, we said that the price needed to climb back up. This new structure could already be invalidated by price, right? The same here. I'm gonna remove all this to make it easier. This right here, right? Consider structure is the same, and then we have the switch. So it started climbing up. RSI could make various divergence, but price invalidates it, right? So that's what we need to keep seeing now. Besides, I said the US stock RSI on the daily is overheated, but then again, the daily is noise to me, or can be noisy, because it's a low time frame. So the higher time frame rules, this could just simply not materialize, right? For example, here, which is something I've been paying attention to, because this is the point where we are in this structure, this comparison, right? Bullish, break. Look at the daily stock RSI, right? It wasn't until here that it decided to cool off, pretty much retest the diagonal, right? And keep moving. So what if we just do this before resetting, perhaps retesting in 84 and moving forward? Why not, right? So that's why I don't really care about the daily. I just want the change in the trend. That's why I use the daily, because this could spot the trend change on the weekly. Starts here, right? But I don't really act on the daily itself. I am not really making decisions unless I see something meaningful like these kind of reversals, right? That's what gets me ready for the new weekly cycle, either to the upside or the downside, right? If you take a look, this 84k level that I have been using for quite some time, that I said it was mandatory to be reclaimed, which, by the way, I'll remove the fractal just a second. Yesterday, or I think it was Sunday, yeah, I said that hopefully 84 holds, and it was pretty much a textbook reset, right? It was the confirmation that 84 is holding for now, reclaimed, right? Being above, toying around, rejection, holding, rejection, hold again with a good candle, moving back up. And if you pay attention, the market gives you enough hints if you know where to look and you ignore the noise. Because if we take a look here, this week's closed above this level, right? Deviated below, try to hold again, support, resistance, support, right? This is like our 84k level, so to speak. That was the level back then, right? Here it was front run, so perhaps we now do something like that and just retest the lower band of the lower band, which is right now at 85, and we don't just retest 84. right? So far so good. If we switch to the weekly, now that perhaps the trend on the daily is going well and pretty much, I'm not gonna say confirmed yet, but if we take a look at the weekly, which is the chart that we should really be paying attention to for what might come next, we've discussed many times the importance of these RSI trend line if the bull market is alive. Back in 2021, correction 23, correction 24, and I said if we're in a bull market, it should hold, and it did. And this is the moment of truth to see if this is just a fake out or the start of a new leg. What I believe is this was a fake out. This would have come way sooner. This was a dead cat bounce, in my opinion. It would have happened earlier, but we don't know, right? We need to break key levels above, especially 90k. Was this support pretty much around here? 90k, the support of this top range, right, that we lost here on the weekly. We need to reclaim that. But so far, this on the weekly, candle wise, right, the body is a higher high. Not on the candle, on the week, sorry. We are actually battling this, but you can already see the shift in the structure. Here, right, we could say, okay, this didn't even close above the weekly candle, right? But it did here. It came to pretty much retest after breaking the MA, the retest here with huge bullish candles, wicks here, retest, confirmation that yes, we are back after the downtrend started, right? We found our bottom here with this double bottom, and this is the confirmation for new run. Rejection, we could say this is a reaction here. We found our bottom, and this will be the key. Perhaps by the time we get there, possibly this week, if price keeps pushing, it could be at 90k. It's pretty much there, right? 90 something. If we somehow manage to close above 90k, okay, I think we can be ready for the new weekly leg, because that would probably mean crossing, right? Starting to the weekly would end like this, like starting to cross above, and then perhaps we have some 80k, 88k retest. But if we manage to close above and it's not a fake out, even though we have this kind of fake out here, right? But price was climbing. This could be the start for the new weekly leg we've all been waiting for. We have the breakout. I mean, everything is looking good so far, and until these structures are invalidated, there's no reason to become bearish, right? People become bearish here, right? Because they are glued to the screens every day for hours. They open many different time frames because they are eager to find an answer. They need to know what's going on, what will happen next as soon as possible. Yeah, but you need to give time, right? Give the market some time and some room to find its new potential bottom. So that's why I like to pay attention to the weekly. Imagine just someone that says that watches this, right, and says, okay, this broke. I'm gonna wait and see if we find a bottom, perhaps like we did here, and he just goes AFK from January and then comes back here and see if it holds or not to make the next decision. So many months, so many mental health spared just by paying attention to the higher time frame, unless you are a trader. Like that's the issue many people have. we say, or we tell ourselves that we invest for the long terms, but then we check charts every 5 minutes, right? I mean, that's okay as long as you keep to your strategy and to the higher time frame if that's what you're playing. But so far so good, right? And I wanted to highlight that, as I said on Twitter, there are some coins already fighting and even breaking the weekly RSI MA, right? This was a reply to a tweet I posted about Solana before going from 100 to pretty much 200 back in early 2024. And I said that no one knows here, right? Like it was February 24, how high these coins can go, right? But that normally crossing the RSI MA brings acceleration. And I posted here, when it was getting close, we had momentum shifting for quite some time. In fact, Pepe made a higher low while BTC made a lower low with a bullish divergence, right? That perhaps the next big move was brewing. And all BTC has done, which is not little, right? But BTC has been climbing from 76, 76, 77K. And Pepe, no one is talking about memes anymore. But I just pay attention to charts. And since this goal, which wasn't just nothing extraordinary, just seeing potential strength, Pepe has been 50% up. No old season, no BTC dominance dropping at all. In fact, it's been climbing, and you have this 50% move. And now it's crossing, and now is when normally, unless BTC chops, but even then, that's a sizable move. But the big moves, as you can see, happen here, right? Monstrous move, 10x, big move, 2x, a little bit more, and now here we are again, right? We have seen that BTC, sorry, I have some mixed charts here. BTC is getting closer. Some coins like Pepe, which have been retracing for a long time, you can see here the perfect rejection after losing this and the EMA is now crossing, and I don't see people talking about that. You know when they will be talking about that? When this move is, I don't know, when we have 30% weekly candle out of nowhere apparently, but this is acceleration and we're getting there, right? And you can see that not every coin is doing that. I think Doge is, you can see, it's not even close yet, right? Its momentum is starting to shift. That's why all Doge has done is retrace this and that, and that's from here, that's an 11%. If you want to include the week, it's a 26% move. And Pepe has done 50%. Why is that? Is that people getting tired of Doge? Are they moving all their money to Pepe to chase? No, it's just momentum and strength. It's in the charts. If you pay attention to this, you can now go chase Pepe, right? And completely ignore Doge here. Once this happens, who's gonna chase this? Who's gonna chase 100, even pretty much a 100% move on a week? Right? Everyone's gonna chase this right when we get here, right? 84 on the weekly. So this, when you have this kind of potential bottom, it's already shaping. This is, I think, a clear bottom, right? The same way it was bottom here. We could say even 3 taps, right? Can already see the shape forming, right? Perhaps here you already see a strength. Why not buy here and ride it until it's overheating? How high? We don't know. Perhaps you see this weekly close and you say, okay, that's enough, and that would be around 83. Why not? I mean, you can just leave some money on the table, some 30% move. But that's okay, I think. We are all just starting to move, right? In fact, you start to move here, cross and this is the start, this is what it looks like. Doesn't it look like similar? I think it does. People sleep on this. People just open perhaps CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap and just see what's flashing green. And that's, I guess that's the new trend. That's all they do, and they put their money on that. But we can see many coins like this. I don't know. I'm gonna HBAR, for example. I haven't really opened this. I think I'm not interested in charting altcoins right now. I'm already fully invested. I'm just holding until BTC gets clarity and BTC dominance drops, right? But if we take a look here, still, this will take some time. Yes, momentum is shifting, which we can already see. But look at this. Okay, fake out here. People getting perhaps scared. They only paid attention to price, but all I see with this fake out is strength. It's like, you give me these entries again. Hell yeah, thank you, man. Because you have this kind of support. Perhaps you want to, I don't know, extend this range to here, to this candle. Yeah, you give me an entry here. Why not? But people get scared here. I mean, October, why is it going down when everything is going boom? Right? You have the cross. It doesn't, we don't know if it's gonna chop for a while, but I mean, I would buy the cross. If you buy here, would you be pissed to have, let's say, yeah, 15% drop in altcoin? I mean, is that enough to panic? And then you come here and see, okay, bullish divergence, this is not time to panic. And you have then, you don't know this is gonna happen. We have been discussing this for quite some time, but then you have a monstrous 7x and 88 on the weekly. Even if you want to sell here because you're a greed bastard, like many of us have been at some point, you could wait for this clear lose of strength while price is rejecting with big wicks. I mean, we have time, and this is starting to look good, right? Many coins, I don't know which one. XRP, perhaps. People have been talking about this. I believe this will still chop for quite some time. Yeah, I'm basing just the same thing. People were holding XRP with confidence here, were mocked. Oh my god, it's doing nothing, bro. Okay, until it decides to do it. Then you will chase, and XRP is going to 20, right? From a scam to a savior, right? The same pattern. So I believe still it will still take time, perhaps the end of May. I don't know. So if you follow charts, I think you should be fine. And these should give you patience. You know, in hindsight, you know what they're gonna do, right? Oh yes, this was a textbook book flag. Book flag was obvious, right? The thing is, when people see this, they just get desperate. And all I see is a perfectly healthy structure ready for a new leg up building, but still not ready, right? We take a look at BTC dominance. This week has already been surpassed. That I said that it hadn't been tested with a body candle yet. It has already. The Fibonacci level I said that could week above is now being above. Again, I don't really care. I don't really care how high it goes. In fact, if BTC leads, it's obvious that BTC dominance goes up, but at the same time, you can see that that altcoins are not retracing while BTC pushes and BTC dominant climbs. Why? Because this is not only a distribution from altcoins to BTC again. This is new money coming into the market. USDT is dropping as well, so people are deploying, right? Perhaps it goes ups and down for a few days until there's confirmation, because people wait for confirmation. That's good, but I wouldn't buy this chart if this was an altcoin, right? Would be perhaps scared. Yes, it's been going for quite some time. If you sell here, you would be out very early. Yes, exactly. You could wait for more for confirmation that it is overextended to start rotating into alts. That's okay. But the thing is, after all we've been through, from 2022, 2.5 years, now are we gonna give up on altcoins now? Is it technically speaking, objectively speaking, the time to give up? Actually, I think it's the time to load for the new leg. If you believe it's gonna go up. I mean, after all, no one knows, but if you follow the technicals, don't just suddenly stop following technicals and just following gut calls or what you randomly see on Twitter. Just stick to your strategy, and so far, so good, right? I believe we are getting into the decisive moment for BTC and probably for altcoins, because if BTC rejects SIA, even if Pepe has crossed the EMA, it could roll over, because let's be honest, it all depends on BTC, and if BTC dominance doesn't drop, altcoins won't run hard. But so far, so good, right? Could market makers make us suffer even more and replicate perhaps this structure here? That would be painful, but I don't think we are at this point. In fact, I think we are at this point, right? In the structure, it makes sense. It's very similar. We're breaking out after this huge downtrend that started on January 13, right? It's been like 3 months, more or less, 4 months, yet being here below, and now we're breaking. So far, so good. I think we need to be patient. Remember 2020, 2022, 2021, it was so painful for ad holders until everything broke. And then people who joined for the first time in May or April, June, whatever, they opened the chart and said, man, I wish I was here in 2020. But back then, people were desperate because their coins were moving. So this is about patience, right? Where else can you get, even if it's just a 50% move or 100% move on a weekly candle? Where else are you going to have those kinds of returns? All you have to do is wait. If you don't wait, you're going to regret it, right? But as always, it all depends on your entry and your strategy. You don't have to follow what I say, of course, because I have my own time frame. I can wait, and I play the long game. Even though I keep following charts daily, I do it to confirm or to test my strategy and adapt it. But my time horizon is always in the weekly. And this cycle so far has been like mini weekly cycles plays, not just hold blow off top kind of move here, which by the way, we had many 30, 40, 50% moves, right, along the way. So it wasn't that easy, right? These kind of candles would make you think it's over, every single one of them, and then you keep moving. I think this cycle is way easier to navigate, right? Perhaps people think that it is easier when it's up only, but you never know it's up only until it's over. And then you can look back and say, okay, it was up only. You don't really know. That's why you have to bet on technicals. They have been holding. I also mentioned that crossing the MA on the monthly wasn't good at all, right? It normally meant that it was over, except for 2021 when we came back and retested almost from below. But we have to keep an open mind. We believe that everything has to repeat. I mean, there are some patterns you can use to get a guide, but don't expect everything to repeat. Otherwise, everybody would make it, right? The good thing is, I said the same way I said in the weekly about the RSI level. I said when it was around here, right, 81K, I think it was. I'm gonna just look for it. I don't know if I will find it quickly or not. Yes, this is the tweet, right? BTC 1 month, although RSI MA crossed variously, which is not good. It's at the same RSI level it bounced from in summer, right? 2024, marking the bottom, and also in summer 2021, right? Was BTC at 81K, it made a week to the 76K, which was the 50 weekly EMA. And what we have now is, sorry, in the monthly, we bounced, right, from the level Even I think we didn't even touch it. We pretty much hold it, and right, it was March 13, right, pretty much here, March, April, like a month, pretty much here. We hold it, and now we have the monthly RSI getting very oversold levels, right? Getting there. In fact, we are getting to this kind of 2021 summer oversold levels, even below it. So if you talk about resets, this is a huge reset, right? On the monthly, you can, if we keep pushing hard now, perhaps we will say, okay, perhaps we are going too fast. But monthly wise, from January to April, it's been cool off a lot. In fact, we are getting close to pretty much bear market bottom, kind of overheating, oversold levels, right? Perhaps here, which was January 2023 when it all started, we haven't been this low in terms of stock RSI momentum and reset since the early stages of the bull market. All that while holding this high RSI, because by the time we were here, with the bull market was starting, we just reclaimed the MA, right? So we are now quite above. The only issue I have here is that we are below the MA. So could we start pushing and get rejected here while everybody is very excited up here? That's what we want to monitor, to track. Remember this, we didn't even touch it. We're making higher high marginally, but we were making them. But look at momentum and strength. It wasn't there. It was mostly perpetual moves, not spot driven, right? And then we have the narrative here that the hikes, the interest hikes were happening. So we'll start from the daily, switch to the weekly. And by the time the weekly starts to look ugly or weak, we pay attention to this and see where we are, right? So until then, we will keep monitoring it level by level. Let's start first by reclaiming 88k. Again, a revisit of this lower bound on the 200 daily. That's not bad at all. It's all part of the plan. It's all part of the recovery. It's never up only, but as long as we keep holding structure, right? Here it looked even worse. Lower highs, lower lows, but you pay attention to the bullish divergences, to the first high, to break to the first high low, and then we have the confirmation, right? So let's see how it all goes, and I'll keep you updated, guys. See ya.